Hi, I'm Nani. Thanks for visiting my channel. I want to share a little bit about my channel before I get started with today's topic. And basically, what you'll find on my channel, if you decide to hang in there with me and stick around for future videos or subscribe, um, the main thing I'm doing here that I will be sharing a lot of is I do live in an RV. I live here full time. There's a lot of pros and cons to dealing with that. I've also changed up some things in the RV and plan to do a lot more. So a lot of those projects I'll be sharing. I'm also very big DIYer. I like do-it-yourself projects. I like the challenge of trying to make things or take it from your imagination and putting it into reality or bringing it to reality. So that's kind of a hobby of mine, something I enjoy doing. And I do plan on sharing some of those projects with you as well. Um, the last two things, it does sound a bit like a little hodgepodge of Nani's life, so to speak, but I have been on a debt free journey for quite a while, and I'm still pushing to reach my goals in that. So, this is not a financial channel. I don't feel informed or educated enough in that topic to be extremely helpful, but I do plan on sharing some of my tips and things I've learned along the way, just parts of my journey in that. And then the other thing is, I'm obviously over 40. I'm in my late 40s, and I found myself at a stage of life where I'm starting over and just basically redefining where I want my life to go from here. So, those are some of the things you'll see on my channel. And my goal for this channel is to hopefully share enough of my journey and experiences, the good and the bad, and hopefully reach people who may be at the same stage of life or may share the same interests, in hopes that um, it would inspire others to do those things that you've been putting off, or just know that there's other people like you out here, and we're all running through life together and just trying to make the best of it. So I want to share what I can. Um, and I'm not saying that it will be inspiring. I hope so. But if anyone finds it motivational, inspiring, or just connects with the subjects, that's the reason. That's my goal for this channel. So for today's topic, what I want to go over are, it's part of my debt-free, I guess you could say, series. I don't know for sure if I'll make it a complete series, but it is part of my story. So today, what I want to share are some of the ways that I've earned extra income to try to help pay down debts and get myself further along to where I want to be with financial freedom. So I've broken it into three categories. The first is um, where I have worked for other companies or other employers, and I was an employee for them. So here we go. The first thing would be waitressing. I waited tables. Now, I do work full time, Monday through Friday. I do have a full time job, and I had to find something that would coordinate with my after hours or hours after my main job. So, waiting tables was something I did, and I did it primarily on the weekends or Friday and Saturday evenings, the dinner rush. And I was able to make a decent amount of money just with tips and waiting tables that way. So that helped further me along in my debt free journey or my debt repayment. So that's the first one. The next thing I did as an employee, so to speak, for another company is I would clean empty properties like homes or apartments. Once someone moved out, they would have me come in, and I would clean it and get it ready for the next or the new tenants. That was one thing that I've done. I've done, like I said, homes and apartments, and I still do that from time to time. A relative of mine does run a business with that as well, so sometimes I go and help them out and make a little extra cash. It's not something that I do consistently, but it's still out there. Um, and then the third thing for what I would do for other companies is I would paint I would paint interiors of properties, um, apartments. Like if once they move out, and again they need to make ready for the new tenants, I would go in and do paints. Now, with both the cleaning and the painting, there were different levels of that. So you could have like a basic paint or a touch-up paint, which is something that there wasn't a lot to redo in the unit. It just had some scuff marks that wouldn't clean off, or just areas that really needed to be touched up and made and refreshed, so to speak. And then you would have units or properties that were full paints, where you basically would paint the entire walls, do all the cut-ins at the ceiling and the baseboards, and so on. So those are the three things that I did to make extra income. And all three of those were fairly um, good incomes, especially as a second income for me. They provided me the resources and the means to uh, have gravel laid on my driveway here at home, and just do some of the updates that I need to do here, as well as, or along with paying down my debts. So those are three that I really um, that I did, and it made a substantial difference for me. Now, the other three are things where I've used apps, so to speak. And the first two you've probably heard and probably been a little reluctant, and maybe you've tried it, I'm not sure. But the first two, I'll just list those together. It's Fetch, it's more of a coupon type thing, and then ProductTube. I was leery about ProductTube, but I did hear about it from another YouTuber, and basically decided to give it a try. And so both of those, instead of paying you directly into your bank account, they give you the option on how to be paid electronically, and generally it's a gift card or something to that nature. And during that time I was doing those side hustles, I was also preparing to throw a pretty big bash party for my daughter. And so what I did with that, with my income from those two, is I would have it transferred to an Amazon gift card, and I was able to buy all of the decorations and well, decor and party favors for her party with those income sources. The only thing outside of that, of course, we paid for was the venue and the food and stuff like that. But a good majority of the cost of that was used from those two apps for me. And so that was very helpful. And then the last app I used, which I guess it would still put me as an employee, so to speak, for another company, but I actually did DoorDash. I mentioned it to my adult daughter that I wanted to try it, or was interested in it, and just kind of leery on it. But she ended up doing it before me, which helped out a lot because she could kind of show me the ropes once I was ready to get started with that. And I actually enjoyed it at the beginning, and it was kind of like a roll of the dice. Like you turn on your app, and it basically tells you ding or whatever you have an order, and it tells you right away the amount that you'll make on it and how far it is, and so you're able to accept it or decline it. And I did that for quite a while too. I would try to do it in peak hours or busier hours, to where um, it was steady work and I wasn't just idling in my car waiting for the next order. But I did enjoy that for quite a while. There were times for me um, where I would like challenge myself to make so much each time that I'd go out. So I would feel that little anxious rush at times. So that was probably not the healthiest way to handle that, but that was something that I've done, and I wouldn't mind doing it again. But if any of these so far, if there's anything you'd like me to share or give more detail on, or more information on my experiences, I'd be glad to just comment, and I'll work up a new video for that specific thing. Okay, and then the last category is things that I've done on my own, which I did at one point start my own business. And at that time, I was working my full time job. I was also waiting tables, and part of the income from waiting tables I used to start my own business. Now, again, I don't know if I've mentioned it here, but I'm a big do-it-yourself person, and I like making things, so I like the challenge of that. So there were, I'm going to say, four categories in this area of my business, and one of those basically started from it wasn't intentional or planned, but it started from the party that I had thrown my daughter, and I had made a balloon arch, or just some balloon decor, and it was my first time doing the whole arch. I've played with like little table toppers and stuff like that before, just for family parties and stuff like that. But after her party, I would have people contact me and ask, how much do you charge to do that? And I had no idea how to charge because it wasn't a venture I was trying to go into, but I was very flattered that people thought enough to be willing to pay me for that. So I did a lot of charity work in that, I guess you could say. I've done it with some of our local little leagues. I've done, well, that as far as charity. I've done a lot of work for family and very close friends. If they needed help decorating and they wanted balloons, I would come and set that up for them. And then I've had some that I've done a graduation. I've done several different things, but it wasn't a real lucrative side hustle for me as far as pay and earnings, because I didn't know how to charge for that. So I would look into it, and when I would look into it, I would see these professional balloon decor people, and see in my mind how much better their product was, and I just didn't feel that my end product was as great as theirs. So I definitely was not about to charge top dollar for it. So I struggled a little bit in even pricing. And I think that's why I ended up doing a lot of that work for free, because not only with the struggle of knowing what to price, but generally if it was someone I knew, um, I don't know. It's just something when you're doing anything from a service of yourself and you're trying to make extra income with it, it's real important to take the time to do the market research, and figure out, the good pricing, if you do want to provide discounts or offer discounts or something like that. And that kind of popped off before I was even ready, and I wasn't even planning for it. So I think I was just, kind of moving through the motions, and going wherever anyone needed me. But I was able to make some income off of jobs that would set up and have it planned ahead of time and stuff like that. So anyway, that was the first one on my business. Um, the other things I would do would be like make shirts, signs, wedding decor, bouquets. Now, I'm no florist, but when it comes to artificial flowers, I've made plenty of boutonnieres and bouquets, and just different decor style things through the years, from way back as far as I can remember. I've always tried to make as much as I could if it was helping someone else out, versus spending top dollar to have the professionals come in and do it. So those were some services that I offered. Basically, more so just to people who knew me and knew I did it. I didn't market that, but those did bring in some income for me. Another thing that I did, which is really how I started my business, is the like baseballs and softballs. I would transfer photos onto those balls and restitch them and so on. And I got on with some of our little leagues here locally, and they would allow me to set up a booth and show some of my samples. And I would do it like a special order or product order type um, situation. So if the customers would see the product and really liked it, they would complete their order, and it would be a prepay situation because it was personalized and customized. So once it's made, it can't be resold. So anyone who would purchase those balls, it would have to be paid up front. And then, of course, they would send me the photos that they would want to use. And I would get into Canva, is the system I used mostly, and also my Silhouette Studio to just do some arrangement in there. But and I would edit the photos and add backgrounds and all of that. Now, I will probably at some point share a video on how I do that, because when I first saw that product, I fell in love with it. I thought it was adorable, and I looked everywhere to try to find out how specifically to do that, because I did not want to stitch the balls or restitch the balls. So I tried to avoid that, and I couldn't find anything on YouTube or any other platform. So I could find some where they would say, or, adhering images to balls, but it would just be like a square in the center, and then all the white or yellow of the ball would still be showing at the seams. And I didn't really like that. I wanted mine to go from seam to seam. I wanted it to cover the entire ball. So I basically figured out how I wanted to do that. It was a lot of trial and error, different printable vinyls to use, different heat settings, different times, the lengths of the the stitching. It was just a lot of trial and error. But I made a few balls, and they were a bust. And once I finally got it down, I felt confident enough to sell those, and I made some decent money off of those. It was unfortunately the start of my business, because when you start a business, you have those expenses. So it wasn't like lucrative in the sense that I could live off of that income. And it did take quite a bit of time to make those balls or that product. So that's something I still do from time to time when it's requested. I just don't market it like I used to, because life and things have changed, and my time has become a little bit, I'm not as available as I used to be. I do now work a lot of overtime with my regular 9 to 5 job. So I've figured, based on the income with that I'm actually making more putting in those extra hours as overtime versus spending the time to do the marketing and the communication. People don't talk about that when you're in business with yourself. That's unpaid time. There's a lot of time that people just inquire about things, and you give them your best, your customer service, and it doesn't always result in a sale, but that's still time that you put into your business and your product. So so that's why I kind of, not necessarily, I guess I just quit marketing it as much, because the bigger money was being made with my overtime. Now, the last thing on that topic, under my own business, is I did start an Etsy shop. I told myself when I started, I was so intimidated. I felt completely uninformed, and I didn't know enough. I've watched so many videos on YouTube, and thank you, YouTube, and all of the influencers who've put their information out there and been so transparent for us. If it wasn't for those videos, I would have never gotten the courage to even try. Two, there's so many steps or things that could come up that I would have probably just lost my mind over, had there not been someone who had experienced it before and knew how to resolve it or get through it. So as far as my Etsy, I told myself from the date that I started it, I'm going to give myself a year and see how this goes. Now, for me, Etsy, I went hard at it for the first several months. I wanted my listings to grow quickly. I made some mistakes, and my mistakes were mostly not doing enough market research and SEO research. I did get attention to my shop and did get sales, But there's some ins and outs when it comes to those things, and there's a lot of influencers out there who have great information to share. If you'd like, I can share some of their channels or their names. But if you found me, I'm sure you probably are aware of them. But if not, I don't mind. I'll share their names, their channels, or any trial and error that I went through with Etsy. Now, Etsy now, it is still currently up and running. It's not something that like I said, that's been very lucrative, but that is primarily uh, the fault of mine because for the longest time I was so just enthralled with trying to side hustle and excited that it was something of mine and I was making, and it felt very enjoyable for anyone to want to spend money on something that I made. And I would see orders come from state, like I'm in Texas, I would see orders in Georgia or Florida or California or just Oregon, excuse me, Oregon. And I would just get so flattered and touched that people in other states were going to be wearing a shirt that I designed. And my, I don't know, I don't think I mentioned it, my Etsy shop was actually a print on demand, or is a print on demand shop. So I'll give more detail on that if you'd like. But the reason I feel it wasn't lucrative enough for me is because I burned myself out, and not necessarily with Etsy, but at the time I was doing my full time job. I was I was doing the balls, and it was during heavy seasons of Little League opening days, closing ceremonies. I've done those balls for coaches. I've done them for Father's Days. I've done team balls where it would be like a full team who went to the playoffs or something, and the parents and coaches would go together and wanted every kid on their team to have one of those balls as part of their end of year ceremony gift. And there were so many. I've done Mother's Day balls, believe it or not. I've done a lot of them. So between work, making the balls, and trying to get my Etsy up and moving, it seemed as though I would wake up in the morning and start out on my computer, my work computer, and then I would move to my chair and get on my laptop and start with the balls because I would have to use that to design and edit and all that. And then maybe stitch the ball or whatever I had to do then. And then I would finish the evening out on Etsy and or any of the resources I used to design for Etsy. And I was just on the computer from wake till sleep. And it felt like for a while I was just tied to a chair. And it it does wear on you a lot whenever you're not really stepping out to see the sun, or getting out of the house, or just living normal everyday things. So I think I just overdid it all as far as my side hustles and all of that. I definitely burned myself out pretty bad to the point where it even started affecting my full time, long term 9 to 5 job. So I had to pull back, and and reset myself, and I've started to just evaluate where I want my focus to be, and a lot of that is with my full time job. But I do strongly still have the desire to have my own thing and to continue to be creative. And so I still dabble in that a little bit, and I enjoy it. I just don't want it to get to the point where it completely overwhelms me or starts to rob me of regular day to day things, or just involving myself with the rest of the world and everything that's outside of my doors. So anyway, so those are my side hustles. Now these were all done for me within the last 2 to 2.5 years, or maybe 3 years. I'm going to say 3 years. So over the course of 3 years, these are all of the side hustles that I've tried, done well with, some have struggled with, and so on. But they were all learning experiences, and I wouldn't change it at all. I'm glad I'm where I am now. And as far as my debt-free journey, I am doing very well with that. I'm not close to the end. I'm not at the end yet. I feel as though by probably within the next year, I'm going to be pretty close to making some big leadway on my goals, as far as starting to be able to adjust my life more in the sense of enjoying myself, and less just paying. You know, I'm sure most of us want to get to a point where we're not just dishing out every cent that we work really hard for, and that's part of my goal, to not have to do that. And I do mess up. I do make mistakes, and sometimes I can be careless at times, and I can set myself back and have. But the goal is always there. I can't shake it. I can't get it out of my mind, because I know that it's something that I can do. And I've had just a little bit extra on this video, but and because it's about side hustles, it is more related to my debt-free journey, or my financial freedom journey. I think that's a good word for it. I've had so many people tell me how impossible it is to live without debt. I've even had people like really just get frustrated with the fact that I even mentioned that, oh yeah, I'm just trying to get my debt paid off, and you know, and so on, and just get kind of aggressively, you know, involved with it, and say, oh, that's impossible. And the funny thing is, I know it's not impossible because I've lived it. I was a very young mom. So when I became a mom, I did not have any credit established. I did not have any financial plan. So I basically felt as if I started in the hole. And no matter how much I would try to climb that ladder and establish myself with my credit, or any other financial resources other than just working, surviving, and taking care of my family, I felt that I was always a little on the short end with that, and primarily from maybe me not knowing, being naive to things, and just struggling through financial hardships and stuff like that. But because of that, I I have three kids, and they're all adults, and I was able to raise all three of my kids, and in the entire time, I had zero debt. And it stayed that way until my youngest, who is in his mid 20s now. Um, he was probably in he was probably a sophomore or junior in high school before I accrued any debt. And so I know that it's possible. So when people tell me it's impossible in this day and age, and at this, in this economy, um, yes, the economy's changed, and we won't get into that. But um, primarily our needs and our necessities, that it's kind of the fundamentals of life. They don't change all that much. And I know from experience that I can live debt free, and I do fully intend to get to that point again, especially in my later years in life. I don't want to get to the point where I'm at the end of my life and I have all this debt, or my home or property. If my kids decide they want to keep it, that they then have to figure out how to get it paid off and all of that. So I just don't want those struggles for myself later in life, or at this point in life. So um, at some point, I'll probably share something as far as my where my debts are, what my plans are, and so on. But anyway, I wanted to jump on here and share this with you. And if you find anything interesting or want to know more, just let me know. And of course, as they say, like, subscribe, share. But I hope to see you again, and I appreciate you stopping in, and hope you have a great day. Take care. Thank you.